What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Acts of Creation. And on this week's lesson, we're going to check out 5 must-know Slayer riffs. Now, one thing I do want to say, a lot of your favorite riffs might not be on here. I just think these are really fun riffs to play, and if you're going to start venturing in and picking out some riffs, these are some ones you might want to start with. That being said, Seasons in the Abyss and South of Heaven. 2 of my favorite Slayer songs, and they're not on this list because if I picked a riff, I can't just pick one riff from those songs. It would have to be the whole song. So that's why those 2 songs are not on here. So if you actually want to look at some full Slayer songs to look at, South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss, 2 songs to check out, as well as albums to check out. That being said, let's check out the riffs and we'll come back and we'll talk about them a little bit. All right, my forearm is on fire, and let's jump in and talk about these riffs a little bit. Before we do, I am in an E flat tuning, down 1/2 step, as all of these examples on the record are actually down a 1/2 step. All right, and if you want the tabs for any of these riffs, you can find the link down in the description below. All right, so the first riff or example was Spirit in Black. I just always had fun playing this riff, right? And it's essentially you have a little pull-off motif, right? Kind of 7/5, 8/7, 10/8 on that A string, and your typical metal chugging between them, right? It's a very Phrygian sound. You're gonna hear that a lot, and really all that means is kind of that half step above E, right? So you have that. nice Gekka hit down at the bottom, G to F or 3 to 1. I'm gonna be talking about them as if when we're in standard tuning. And then the verse riff starts, and I kept that going because years ago when I learned this riff and played these riffs and was really into Slayer, I used it to become or hone my alternate picking skills, right? But as I revisited them for this video, I realized that I think they're down picking some of this. And as I played it that way, I wanted to play it that way, and it really brought it to life. So that's what really makes this hard. This particular one, and maybe one of the other ones later on, is the sheer down picking velocity that you have to do. That being said, again, when I learned these, I was alternate picking. So if you can't down pick that fast, if it's something you want to work up to, then fine. But otherwise, if you just want to have some fun, alternate pick through these riffs, and then the first riff, you're really just chugging down there. And I always like the chorus section and you have these fills, right? Very Slayer, tritone, and very chromatic, and there's slight variations in them. The second one, he comes down, have that sus inverted power chord. Don't think about it that way, right? Just a really fun riff to play. The next example on the list was Angel of Death. Now, we could have talked about the beginning, but everybody, including Limp Bizkit, loves the breakdown, all right? So, let's talk about that. He's got some trills, like hammer pull-offs, right? You do it on 7, 6, 5, all the way down to 4, and back up to 7. And then you have this fill, right? Typical Slayer, again, I'm going to say that often, but it's tritone. And then also there's that mixture of kind of chromatic thirds that you'll see a lot, or hinting at. So you got that 6, 7, 6, 5, and then a chromatic line. There's that major third shape. And then he jumps up and he does it on the 9th fret. And the other guitar is actually harmonizing up a power chord or a 5th. So if the riff is on 6, the harmony would be on 8. Power chord shape. Same idea, except that last one is actually a tritone away. Again, typical Slayer. Tritones, chromatic thirds, all that kind of stuff for their harmonies. And they tend to harmonize in 4ths, 5ths, a lot of the time. All right? And then you just have this great E and F kind of. Just pounding away, right? E and F, and then A, and then E flat. And then you have this cool little section where they step up to the F, the A flat, and the G. And they have that awkward kind of riff. Again. Thirds, 6, 7, 6 on the D, 7 to the A, and then another third, 5 on the A, 6 on the E. And then they're outlining minor third, major third, kind of playing off that same note. And then again, I believe the harmony is, I want to say a third if I remember correctly, but I could be mistaken on that because I don't remember. Sorry. Next on the list. This was probably the trickiest or hardest example to put together just because of the speed, and there's a lot of single notes and then a great power chord riff, and that is Serenity in Murder, which is off the Divine Intervention album. Not one of their best albums, but it was better than anything else they released in the 90s. Right? Because after that, it was that punk album, and then Diablos and La Musica, which was super nu metal influenced and not very good. But there was definitely some really good tracks on the Divine Intervention album, and this is one of them. So you have this figure. That's the figure, right? he repeats, and they repeat that. So it's 8, 6, 5, 7, 5, 4. Drop down to third. 7, 6, 7, 6, 5. Again. And there's just sprawling drum fills all over it. And then they move that down chromatically. And then you have this really cool power chord riff. And I'll slow it down. Really great riff, and it's totally E minor, Metallica on speed. Again, more chromatic movement. 3, 2, 1, right? And then you have that little fill in there. Just super chromatic. 2, 0, 3, 4. Jump up to the power chord note, and down 5, 4, 3. Right, and then you have this crazy chromatic idea, and again, there's drum fills going all over it, so it's really difficult to kind of get the timing of it. But it's 3, 4, 2, 4 cross string, and then you kind of come down 2, 3, 2, 3, basically thirds on C, third on G. And then what you're going to do is you're going to move that up chromatically and then down chromatically. So you start it on 3, move up to 4, and then go 3, 2, 1. And I didn't put it in there, but there's a riff that follows it. Really fun song to play, really high tempo. So the next track is At Dawn They Sleep, and it's just one of the classic songs. I know they always used to play it live, so it's just got that typical Slayer in it, and it's really fun. You have that motif, right? And they're harmonizing here in minor thirds. So one guitar is on 9, so it starts on the D and G string, 9, and then 8, 7, and then a string lower, and then a string lower, down a half step, 8, 7, 6. And then they put some extra notes on it. And this riff I think is in 5/4 or 10/8, however you want to think about it. And there's some open string chugs. Again, all down picked, high tempo. And like I said before, the harmony is actually in a minor third. So the other one is 6/5/4. And then the first couple times, they do it here, and then I believe they jump up to here, and they end up harmonizing that as a fourth. And then it moves into this really cool chromatic power chord riff. Right? You can really hear that their punk influence in something like this. And it's super chromatic, 8, 7, 6, down a major third, 9, 8, 7. Repeat the first one, and then up a whole step, 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8. Like that. And then they kind of move up and they take the riff from open E to F sharp, right? And again, it's a typical thing of that era. I'm probably gonna make a video on that, like the big four and how they always used to step up a whole step in their verses and the pre-chorus. I'm gonna do that. That'll make a fun video. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Anyway, so he's here. Right, 4 2s, and then you have this, again, chromatic thirds. 4 3 2 3. And then it's the same thing. They just they put a variation on the ending, so it's or stuff like that, right? And you can see that in the tabs, and you can also hear that as well. So finally, our last example is War Ensemble. Fantastic opening track off Seasons of the Abyss album, and it just hits you right in the face. It's an absolutely brutal song, right? And you have this 3-0, 3-1-0 kind of hang. Brutal, super fast, and I've seen it tabbed out as pull-offs. And I don't know, for me it's just easier to pick it. Going by that fast is just a steady 16th notes. But then they make it tricky. They put that weird 8th note fill at the end of it. Kind of slow it down, and it really is kind of disjointing. So it's 0-3 on the low string, 2-1 on the A string, and then 0-3-2-1 on the low string, right? And then you have this nice, cool, climactic sounding power chord, this ascending yet descending power chord riff. So it's all on the low string, 3-2, 4-3, and then 9-8. Then you move to the A string. Same thing, repeat the low one. And a real subtle change, the second time through, it's 4-3, 5-4, 7-6, right? It almost creates more tension, if you will, right? And then you come up to one of the fastest riffs that you can play, and that's the verse riff for this song. And you're essentially playing chromatically on the A string, your accent hits. 3, 6, 5, 4. But between that, you're chugging on that low 3rd fret. And it is flying by. It's like 220 BPM, so good luck with that one. All right, everybody, that'll do it. 5 Must Know Slayer riffs. Did I miss any of your favorite riffs? I'm sorry, but yell at me down in the comments below. All right? You can find a link for any of the tabs for these riffs down in the description below. And as always, let me know what you come up with. So until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.